All right, so you want to up your workplace communication game. Sounds like a plan. And let me guess, you're hoping these two Chinese books you've got are going to have all the answers.
Well, they're definitely a good start. I mean, speak beautifully. That one's all about, navigating different personalities and situations.
Okay, practical tips. I like it. And the other one, communication style analysis guide. What's the deal with that?
Oh, that one is going to be huge for figuring out how your coworkers tick. It's
Yeah.
like a cheat sheet for understanding their communication styles.
All right, so no more awkward silences or accidental office feuds. Sign me up. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's break this down. Where do we even start with maximizing communication effectiveness?
Well, the thing is, it's not about being everyone's best friend. It's more like, figuring out the dynamics at play and using that to actually achieve your goals.
So less about being nice, more about being strategic. I can work with that.
Exactly. And that starts with realizing that, honestly, not all workplace relationships are created equal. This Speak Beautifully book, it talks about this supporters, opponents, neutrals thing.
Okay, hold up. Supporters, opponents, neutrals. Sounds kind of like a workplace RPG. Tell me more.
Right. So your supporters, they're your people. They get you. They're on board with your ideas. You want
Yeah.
to make sure you're nurturing those relationships.
Makes sense. Gotta have your crew. But what about those coworkers who live to disagree with you? The opponents.
Ah, yeah. Those are tricky. And honestly, Speak Beautifully doesn't sugarcoat it. It's less about trying to win them over and more about, damage control.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. So how do you deal with an opponent?
Basically, you got to keep your interactions super focused. To the point. Don't get sucked into their energy vortex. Choose your battles.
Strategic retreat. I like it. Okay, so that's supporters and opponents. What about the neutrals? Worth my time or nah?
Neutrals can totally be worth it. They're like
Yeah.
wild cards.
Yeah.
It's all about finding that common ground. What motivates them? Where do their goals match up with yours?
Okay, so you find that connection, build a little rapport, and bam, they might just join your team.
You got it. But here's the thing. Speak beautifully makes a good point. Not every relationship at work needs to be super deep. You know, Surface level's fine.
Oh, thank goodness. Trying to be BFS with everyone in the office sounds exhausting.
Right. It's about picking your battles, investing in the right people, and yeah, sometimes keeping a little distance
Mm,
for your own sanity.
totally. But then when you do need to really connect with someone, build that trust. How do you make that happen?
Shared goals are key, for
Yeah.
sure. But more than that, it's about proving yourself. Speak Beautifully calls it reliability, which really hit home for me. You can't force trust.
No, you definitely can't. So how do you build it then, especially when it feels like everyone's always watching their own back?
It's about showing up consistently, following through on what you say you're going to do, and being upfront about what you want. That's how you build a foundation.
So basically, be someone your coworkers know they can count on.
Exactly. And here's the last piece Speak Beautifully highlights. You got to learn how to read the room. The unspoken rules, the office politics.
Office
Yeah.
politics. Sometimes it feels like a whole different language. Any tips on deciphering that code?
It's all about paying attention, picking up on those subtle cues, understanding what makes people tick, and then honestly adapting your approach.
So what I'm hearing is communication is like a chameleon,
Yeah.
always changing to fit the environment.
Bingo. And that's where our second book, Communication Style Analysis Guide, comes in.
Yeah.
It's going to give us the breakdown on those different communication styles so we can blend right in.
Okay, hit me with it. How many communication styles are we talking, and how do I actually use this knowledge? It's like I meet someone new, I figure out what type they are, and then what?
Well, this guide breaks it down into four main types, which is actually super manageable when you think about it. So first up, the controlling type.
Okay, controlling. Sounds a little intense. Are these the folks always calling the shots?
Sometimes, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not always a bad thing. They're super task-oriented, big picture thinkers,
Mm-hmm.
and they get stuff done. But they can be,
A little blunt.
yeah, a little blunt. Speak Beautifully actually had this great example. Like, imagine you're pitching an idea to a controlling type. Don't get bogged down in the details. They want the bottom line.
So cut to the chase. What's the impact? Got it?
Hmm.
What about the analyzing type? What are they all about?
Data, data, data. They got to have all the facts before making a move. They're the ones who actually read the meeting agenda. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know the type. Triple checking every detail.
Exactly. But here's the key with them. Be prepared, have your facts straight, anticipate their questions, and don't rush them.
No rushing the data lovers. Makes sense.
Okay, who's next on our list of communication styles? All right, let's talk expressive types. These are your social butterflies, the ones who love to brainstorm and chat it up.
The office extrovert. Gotta have one.
They bring the energy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And they're great at, getting people excited about ideas, speak beautifully. Pointed out that a lot of times they just want to be recognized, appreciated.
So how do you communicate with someone who's so, I don't know, outwardly focused?
It's all about creating a space where they feel heard, valued. Let them share their thoughts, give them that positive feedback.
A little ego boost never hurt anyone.
Exactly. But keep it genuine. Okay, last but not least, we got your amiable types.
Amiable. All right, lay it on me.
So if expressive is like out there, amiable is more chill, more introverted. They're great listeners, super thoughtful, but they might not always speak up in a big group setting.
Oh, I totally know the type. How do you make sure they feel comfortable sharing their ideas?
One-on-one conversations can be huge for them, or even just smaller group settings. They need to feel that sense of trust.
So create a safe space, draw them out a little. I can do that.
See? You're a natural. But that's the thing about these communication styles. It's not about trying to change anyone. It's about understanding, adapting your approach.
It's like having a superpower. I'm already feeling more confident about navigating these office conversations.
You and me both. But here's the thing. Speak Beautifully brought up that I thought was really interesting. We've talked about all these other communication styles, but what about our own?
Oh, good point. I hadn't even thought about that. Do you think you've got yours figured out?
Honestly, I'm still working on it.
Mm.
I think I might be a bit of an analyzer, always wanting all the information.
Which can be a good thing, but sometimes you just gotta trust your gut?
Tell me about it. I can overthink things for sure.
Oh, me too. It's like analysis paralysis. But you know what else gets in the way of good communication? All that stuff we tell ourselves, those negative thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. Speak Beautifully dives deep into that, like that feeling of being perpetually unappreciated.
Ugh, the worst. You're putting in the work, but it's like, hello? Anyone notice I'm killing it here?
Right. And the thing is, when you get stuck in that headspace,
Mm-hmm.
it can really mess with how you interact with people.
It's like self-sabotage before you even start. So how do you get out of that cycle of feeling unappreciated? Asking for a friend.
Speak Beautifully had a really interesting take on it. They basically said, instead of looking for external validation all the time, try focusing on your own inner confidence.
Easier said than done.
For
Yeah.
sure. But it's about recognizing your own worth, focusing on doing your best work and trusting that eventually the right people will notice.
It's like stop seeking approval, just own it. Love that.
Right. And that actually ties into another big communication killer. I'm not good enough.
Oh, that one's a classic. It's like that imposter syndrome thing, even when you know you've got the skills.
It's so common. But the book actually brings up a good point. Everyone messes up. Like everyone. Even the people you think have it all figured out.
Okay, that is weirdly comforting to hear. So how do you deal with that not good enough voice then?
For me, it helps to focus on progress, not perfection. Like, yeah, I might not nail everything every time, but I'm learning and growing.
Progress over perfection. I'm writing that down. Okay, so we've covered feeling unappreciated and not good enough. Any other communication villains lurking in the shadows?
One more big one. The I'm a victim mentality.
Ooh, that's a dangerous one. I'm sensing a lot of blame shifting and negativity.
It's easy to fall into, right? When something goes wrong, it's human nature to want to deflect. But the problem is, it keeps you stuck.
Stuck in what way?
Stuck in that feeling of powerlessness. Speak Beautifully was big on setting boundaries as a way to combat that victim mentality.
Boundaries with coworkers, how does that even work?
It's not about being difficult. It's more about recognizing that you have the right to say no, to disagree respectfully, to protect your time and energy.
It's about advocating for yourself, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which ultimately makes you a better communicator.
Yeah.
Because you're coming from a place of strength and self-awareness.
Wow. This has been incredibly eye-opening. Like, I knew communication was important, but I had no idea how many layers there were to it.
It's a journey, right? But it's so worth it when you start seeing the impact on your relationships, your work, everything.
Absolutely. So before we wrap things up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are ready to level up their communication game?
Don't be afraid to be yourself.
Yeah.
Authenticity goes a long way, and people respond to it. So, yeah, learn the techniques, practice the skills, but also bring your own unique awesomeness to every conversation.
Love that. Be yourself, be open, be ready to learn. This has been such an amazing deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk communication.
And to our listener, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Remember, you have the power to transform your workplace communication one conversation at a time. Until next time, happy communicating.